What's good? Kings, queens, everything in between.
Well.
Welcome back to another episode of the Peasant Party Podcast. We're having a fun one today. I'm your host, Charlotte Warren. I always forget to introduce myself. We've got some really fun-ass people in studio. Before we introduce our guest, I want to kick it to somebody that everybody loves.
Oh, stop.
We're glad to have you back. Everyone's
come on. Thank you. Yeah, it's been a couple weeks.
I know, right?
I miss being here. I miss being in this room.
Well, you're back.
Yeah, I know.
Nice. How's it been? We'll go into other things, but just...
Great, actually. So today is the 13th.
Yes, tomorrow is Valentine's
Day. Today I had a boy ask me to be his Valentine.
Ooh.
Record time with seconds to the buzzer.
Boom, boom.
Me, so.
Wow. Did you say yes?
Absolutely.
Nice.
I said, yes, please.
We'll figure out what that means to be this guy's Valentine.
Yeah.
After we introduce Kylie.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, Kylie. Okay, so before I let Kylie introduce herself, so a few episodes back, we had my lovely friend Justine on, and then we continuously, because I kept asking her about her experience in improv, and she kept talking about my friend Kylie Kaiser, and then it was literally it was just kind of oh, this is the Kylie Kaiser Appreciation Podcast. And so I'm we can't mention somebody's name 7 times and dedicate a podcast to them without having them on the podcast. So This is the Kylie Kaiser who has been mentioned heavily several episodes.
Mysterious
Kylie
Kaiser.
Who are you? This is comedian Kylie Kaiser.
Who am I? I ask myself that every single day.
As do I.
Depends on the day you ask me. Today I am a comedian. So yeah, I do comedy here in Austin, Texas. But I say that unironically, the who I am today, because I've lived, all my friends joke that I've lived a million lives. So I don't know. I'm sure we'll get into all of that, but I've went through a lot of different career paths. So right now it's comedy, and it feels like the fit that I'm gonna run with until I die, I think. So that's exciting. I'm a bartender as well, but trying to do the thing. Yeah, I do stand-up comedy here, and I'm a podcaster as well.
Nice. What is the name of your podcast?
So my solo podcast, solo for now, a little teaser, is Responsibly Unhinged. Mm-hmm. And then I actually co-host a health and fitness podcast with Kara Goss. She's a registered dietitian, and that is called Not Your Quick Fix.
Nice. And what days do those release? What days do those come out, and where can we find them?
So Not Your Quick Fix is on Apple and Spotify. That's out every Monday pretty regularly. Responsibly Unhinged is unhinged in its schedule, so it's coming out whenever the fuck I get it out, which is why I'm making some changes to the podcast, as I teased at, and it will hopefully be starting to come out bi-weekly on Wednesdays starting in March.
Nice.
But when it comes out on a random Wednesday, it's usually then. And that's on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube.
Nice. And if someone wanted to start, because we're probably a few episodes in, what are your favorite episodes? Where do you recommend people start?
Yeah. So for the basis of this podcast, I'll probably focus more on Responsibly Unhinged. That's kind of the era I'm in. So I know my very first episode is called, I believe it's Mailed Thongs, The Antichrist and Other Red Flags.
Okay, fun. Okay.
And it has actually my most listens and downloads. That one's pretty crazy. And then I also have an episode where the guy that episode is about, who is my really crazy 5-year ex-boyfriend, the girl he dated after me connected with me.
This just happened to me.
Yeah,
oh my God,
yeah.
what a crazy... And you had her on? Did you have her on?
Yeah, so she came on my podcast.
Oh my God, I'm so excited.
And so that episode is crazy. She wasn't in person. We did it over Zoom, and she didn't want to be seen. She's doesn't have social media at all. She's very private. But she agreed to do the podcast, and we're friends now, so shout out Jordan.
I love that. That's so sick.
Jordan.
So those 2 episodes, that one was called something like an unexpected alliance.
Nice.
Something like that.
That happens sometimes. You make a little alliance, even if you're different.
She's dope, dude. Well, we're so much alike, which is not that shocking, I guess. Of course.
And so so tell me, okay, so comedy here in Austin, Texas. So I'm a huge Kill Tony fan. I'm a little bitter though, because I was in the line for 2 hours. And I was so excited to get to the front. I had my timer set for and I was waiting to go onto it, and I did not get tickets. So I'm very upset about that. But you have been on Kill Tony. I watched your episode. You did a great job. You were the only woman the whole episode.
Yeah.
How was it?
It was insane. Honestly, it was like a fever dream. I like kind of feel like I blacked out, like especially for like the interview portion, like because the episodes, some people don't understand, they release much later than they're filmed. It's
It's like
it was like 3 weeks behind at the time I was on. Now it's like 5 because they did so many build-ups and stuff. But so when it came out on TV, watching the interview, I was like, I don't remember saying any of that. Yeah, I was like, I remembered like 1 or 2 things from it, but I just remembered being like, it went well, and I just remembered the big thing that happened, which is that Dave Attell invited me to do his sold-out show at the Mothership. So that was the coolest thing. And I was only 4 months into doing comedy then, so I just feel really blessed and really lucky. Like I said, it was just a crazy thing to happen. And that show can like really do something cool for you. It can just be like a cool experience, or it can be really awful.
Yeah, I feel
like some bad. I've seen somewhere.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I don't think you getting invited to something else was luck in any sense of the word. Because
though Brian Redband is like, you want to come be on the
fall.
show? Come be on the Secret Show. Like the ongoing joke is like, he just like invites women,
which is crazy because I like didn't do the Secret Show, but I was like I was fine with that because like obviously it was so like I ended up being on the show with Dave Attell, Tom Segura, and Ian Fidance. And I went up before them, and it was insane. They were all incredibly nice, incredibly humble people. And it was really the thing that, like, kind of to your point, is like, I do know it had to mean something, but I also just was like, oh, like, if nothing else happens for me, I still got further than, like, I ever imagined I would get, like, just getting to do that.
That's so sick.
So I was like,
that's
cool.
so cool. Yeah,
I'm actually just about to celebrate a year of officially doing stand-up next week, or like in a week and a half.
That's wild.
But I'd been writing for like 6 months before that. So I wrote a lot. I took a stand-up class in Nashville, which is where I moved here from. And I got here and was just going through some mental health stuff, and I wasn't ready to like take it to the stage, but like I kind of moved here with that anticipation of doing it. I heard this was like, you know, becoming the booming capital for comedy.
It is.
And it was true. But I just kind of like hesitated and like kind of dicked around with it and didn't do it. And then February of last year, I just was like, okay, I'm just going to try this open mic. And it was just like 5 minutes that I wanted to last forever. And I was like, okay, I have to keep doing this. And I just have not stopped.
Wow. How many, what percentage of comedians do you feel like started that same way, where they were like, you know what, I just got to give it a shot, and then it turns out they were really good at it?
So it's crazy because like everyone's story is different. It was so funny when I walked in here, the guys that work here, like I know them. Like he's a comic and stuff. Yeah. So it's like everyone has a different thing. And it's like some people I talk to are like, they've been in it 8 years and never even gotten like an opportunity like what happened to me in 4 months. And then there's somebody who like actually there's a girl on the scene, Christina Mariani. I'll give her a shout out. Yes.
We've seen her.
Yeah, she's a
I love her.
comic.
She's roasted me. Like the one, remember at the time where
she's very like the beautiful
the little like the mousy one when we took the mushrooms.
Yeah. So she was kind of an inspiration to me, and I've told her this when this happened, when she was working at Mothership when I did the Dave Attell spot. And I got here and I actually had met her. I was back in Nashville, like visiting and doing some shows, and she happened to be in town in Nashville that week. And everywhere that I went, people kept asking me, like when I said I was from Austin, like, oh, are you here with Christina? And I had never met her at this point. I didn't know who that was. Like I said, I was very new to the scene, and I was like, I don't know who that is. And then we ended up being on the same show, and I like went up and introduced myself, and I was just like, hey, everyone keeps asking me if I know you. Like I'm a new Austin comic, and she was so sweet, super nice, and that was just like this interaction we had. And then I followed her on Instagram, and I went and like watched her videos and saw that she had a very similar situation. Like she got on Kill Tony. I think she was like 3 months into doing comedy and just like annihilated it, got whatever offers they were giving, kind of a similar, I think she did Secret Show, but like then she just kept coming back, and it was kind of the same thing where he was just like, oh my God, this is crazy that you're only 3 months in. And I kind of like let that be like an inspiration, because there's a little bit of like, okay, there's a lot of bit of misogyny in comedy, but there's a little bit also of like gatekeeping with like just depending on who you make friends with. And I felt very fortunate that I've found some really bomb friends in the comedy scene, but there were a lot of people when I started that kind of, I don't know if there's like a chip on their shoulder about how long they've been doing it and not getting somewhere, that people were kind of like, oh, you're new, or you don't understand this, or like you don't do that. Or like when I was debating signing up for Kill Tony, like I definitely agree it's bizarre when people who are like never done stand-up choose that as their first time. That's crazy.
Bold. It's a bold move.
So like definitely I wanted to have like a minute I felt good about, but I had a lot of people being like, oh, this is a waste of your time if you're only 3 months in and stuff. And I kind of like let her be somebody that made me overcome that. And I got to tell her that at the bar, and she was just like, fuck those people.
Yeah, and you crushed it. Like it was a good
Thank
it was
you.
just, it was a good set. It was solid, like a solid good minute. Like,
Thank you so
I mean,
much.
Tony Hinchcliffe, like, is like the roast master of the
Yeah.
world. Like, I think he's better than Jeff
I'm
Ross.
so scared of him.
His
I'm
roasts
so
are
scared of
crazy.
him.
Which is wild because Jeff Ross was my other judge.
Oh, yeah, it
it was
was. Which
David
is
Tell and
wild.
Jeff Ross. Yeah.
That's so wild. And something like, of course, that I've noticed, and not to like pivot too hard, but a big theme that you've had in your comedy is dating.
Oh, yeah.
Like what it's like to be dating.
Which
dating
my
in
podcast
Austin.
is based on too.
Exactly. So, I mean, like, what is it like to date as a comedian? Like, do you walk into dates and guys are just trying to like tell you a joke, be like, oh, is this funny? Or like, what is that like?
Yeah, so it's mixed. I was just talking about this last night with this guy I just started hooking up with because he always does that. He's always like, he'll always like ask me if something is funny, or he'll like always he's always like, are you gonna like literally just coming to this podcast? He's like, are you gonna talk about me today? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, but so it's like one of two ways where though men are either like really put off by it and they are scared because they're like, I don't want to turn into a bit. It's like I don't know where y'all lie on this. I feel like Justine gave me a preview, but like I'm a big Swiftie, like very shamelessly.
Nice.
But it's kind of but it's kind of like the Taylor Swift effect of it, right? Where it's like, oh, are you gonna write a song about me? And it's kind of like, well, if you're a fucking idiot, like I don't know, like
You should be so lucky.
yeah,
to write a joke
which is
about
what I've
you.
started saying to men to check their egos. This guy dropped me off like a few months ago that I hooked up with, and he like was driving me, and like I had met him kind of like not through comedy, but through mutual friends, and he's a big comedy fan and was like very interested in it, and so that was kind of like what made us talk a lot. And he was cool, but he was like driving me home and like tried to make that joke, and he was like, oh, am I gonna end up in a bit? And I was like, it's really funny that you think this was that significant to me.
Oh, burn. Do you ever get like the opposite? Because I feel like so many guys like are terrified of the idea of like women having dating podcasts, all of that.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
run away from it. Do you ever have the opposite effect where it's like Joe Rogan fanboys who are like, oh yeah, you do what? Like,
Yeah.
hi, I'm your new friend. Like,
Yeah, well, that's kind of how I feel like this guy's been a little bit, and not in an annoying way. He's been like sweet about it, but he's kind of, I can tell he like kind of wants to be a joke. Like he kind of like wants to make it into the set. And then I have other guys like, if you watched my Kill Tony, all my friends and people have made it's a very infamous little buddy situation. Like that's like what's one of my, it's a joke I do almost every set. I did on Kill Tony. Very real story. And
Tell it.
so yeah. So if you want the full length, I have a 2-length episode podcast on it. But long story short, I was just kind of seeing this guy around this time last year, situationship, quote unquote, whatever. We were sleeping together, hanging out, and I like really liked him, and he was like giving me that impression, and then he called me his little buddy. And I was just like mortified, like because he was giving me all these mixed signals, and like I was just like, and anyone I told that to, like male friend, girlfriend, anything, was just like that same reaction.
Like,
so I was just like,
not good.
yeah. So it was just like one of the first jokes I wrote because I just thought it was so funny, and so like I changed like with stand up, I get that question a lot. So when you're asking about dating, people are always like, all this can't possibly have happened to you, and I'm like, I can't make this shit up. Like I really can't. So everything is like, someone once described to me like story-based comedians being like, you know, when you go see a movie and there's like a documentary is like as close to the truth as possible, and then a movie that's like based on a true story is like you're gonna add some dramatic effect to make it more entertaining. I feel like my comedy is based on a true story. So it's like in that joke when I set it up, I say that he called me his little buddy like while we were fucking, but that didn't happen. He like said it to me in a text.
Got it.
It's like, but he did call me that.
It comes from somewhere.
Yeah, like there's a lot
the
of
foundation
basis.
is the truth.
Right.
Yes.
So so dating as a comic, it's like you said, it's a flip of the coin. Guys are either kind of scared of it or they are like a little too into it. But the bigger issue with dating as a comedian is this is the age-old debate amongst us female comedians. We're a small percentage of the comic scene. With the exception of lovely men like some of the guys that work here that are married and stuff and are nice people. They're all trying to fuck. All the male comics are trying to fuck you. And it's like, they are, some of them are like not mean or obnoxious about it, but it's like, they're definitely like, if they would. And some of them are like relentless about it. And so it's like trying to make this decision as a female comic of like, am I going to mess around with comics or not? But there's pros and cons to that. Like it's kind of unavoidable a little bit.
Can I ask why you think that is? Is it just because it's such a male-dominated field that they are like magnetic towards the women in it, or like, or are they overconfident for some reason and believe that they're like crushing it and they can totally?
I think it's the opposite actually. So like something about comedy, and like I include myself in this with like just my backstory and stuff too, is like, comedy is kind of like the island of misfit toys. Like, obviously, most people have comedy from
I
a
could see
place.
that, yeah.
It's like you either have trauma or like you're a little bit like maybe you were socially awkward. Like, mine is more the trauma side. I've never met a wall I can't talk to. So like it's there's something there though that like makes them not fit in. So I think it's like it just becomes a very tight knit community of people who like a lot of people maybe don't have other communities. And then on top of that, I think for a lot of these guys, and this is no shade, I love these men, but some of them have like told me this, like they didn't have like a ton of like other situations to be put in where they're like connecting with women or they're cool or like they're doing a thing that they have in common. So there's like this common ground already built in.
Okay.
So I think that's part of it, but it is tough to avoid. Like, I mean, I'm not unguilty. Like I've done it. But it's like, it's kind of like the taboo of dating your coworker and like, but that also happens so often, right? But it is like, you have to see each other all the time. So you have to remain professional. Like this is your work. But it's also like, I think the hardest thing about dating as a comedian is trying to date non-comics because the schedule is ass. Like, and I mean, I was hinge dating for a little bit with non-comics and it was like, I mean, I canceled one date on a guy 3 times just because it was like, oh, sorry, but like comedy is so last minute. Like I get booked on a show today. Sorry, I have an open mic. Sorry, I gotta like, and or when can you see me? I guess like 1 p.m. on a Saturday. I've got stuff every night while you're at your 9 to 5.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Can I ask something? Would you invite like a hinge date, first or second date? Would you invite them to one of your shows to come see you?
I don't think so.
No?
I don't think I would be opposed, like if they really wanted to and asked, but I would have to have like been able to. I would probably not say first date because I would have to vibe out like if they're gonna be cool. Because that's the other thing that's hard for me is like it takes a special type of man to be able to like watch a girl come up there and be like talking about other guys' dicks.
Well, and something Justine mentioned, she alluded to you on the podcast was, on her episode was creepy guys seeking you out because you're more public, like they recognizing you or saying,
they know
like
who you are already.
You know, they know who you are. They come sit in the front row, like. Act weird.
And one of my best friends here that's a comic, she has a pretty large Instagram following and it's happened to her like a lot. Yeah.
Really?
So because it's like tough because you can't like to an extent it's like some influencers when they start to get bigger and stuff they'll just like post stories later and things like that so you don't know where they are. I can't really avoid that because then I can't promote my shows. So it's like everybody knows if you follow me I'm gonna be at Liberty Austin tonight because I have a show because I'm promoting it.
Right.
Yeah, so it's like you can't really avoid that and obviously you can kind of rely on there being a crowd and I try to not like walk to my car alone but any weirdo from Instagram could just be like lurking in the back and I would have no idea.
Exactly.
And you kind of have to like be polite to them, like if they're a fan, what are you gonna be rude to them, like they want to come to your shows and support you until it crosses a boundary. That's a weird.
I mean, I had a Kill Tony fan that sent me like a lot of money in July.
Justine shared that on the episode.
And he's not been weird. Like if you're listening to this, please don't murder me.
Just keep sending her money.
He's really nice.
Support local
very
comedians.
Handsome guy.
He's very handsome.
But no, he actually is polite. He like really liked my comedy and like all this stuff. But I was always like, I mean, I don't know this person, so you could be crazy.
I feel like though in Austin, it's like if a man wants to give you money, you don't ask.
Yeah, and he doesn't live here, so that helps.
Oh, he doesn't. Okay,
that I know
perfect.
of. That I know.
Okay, hey.
I think I would have met him by now, probably. But yeah, shouts out.
Woo. No, like I feel like this is always just like so fun to hear. Like I'm a huge like stand-up comedy fan. I'm so thrilled to have you here.
Charlotte loves it.
What are we seeing on my boyfriend gets here tomorrow and then on Thursday night we're seeing the 10 o'clock show. I'm blanking on who it is. But
at Mothership?
Yep, at the Mothership. Okay. We're big stand-up
Who's your favorite comedian? Do you have one?
Who's my favorite? Shane Gillis.
Oh, he's great.
He's great. I like him a lot.
We love him.
I was really hoping, like, with my mom here, we also have a guest that is off camera, my mother. I was really hoping Christina P would be having a show just because like she had like literally a show about how people say like so-and-so and me instead of so-and-so and I, like me and so-and-so instead of like Annabelle, me and Annabelle instead of Annabelle and I. And like, that's like one of her bits. And my mom was always like that. So I'm like,
she would be tickled
oh my God. No, she loves it. So I was like,
I
was crossing my fingers there would be a Christina P show. There was not.
I love that.
But I love Bert Kreischer is like just, I think more story.
He's a great character.
He's a character. Yeah. That's for sure. I love Two Bears.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like, yeah. But yeah, I guess before we pivot into the next thing, you can say without any other context, who is the horniest comedian?
The horniest?
The horniest. Good or bad, you don't have to say either way.
Probably me.
Nice. Okay. That sets the tone perfectly. So something we would love your help with is like Annabelle has been out and about dating. Apparently now she has a Valentine, so maybe this is all
I'm
void.
off the market.
Off the market.
I literally met this guy like 2
I
days
just
ago.
want to say the guy I'm sleeping with just gave me a vape for Valentine's Day. So it's pretty serious.
So I would say he loves you.
Pretty serious.
I'd say that's your man now.
Yeah.
But no, I think it was like last week. Annabelle got this really cringy, like I don't even want to
Oh,
call it a
boy.
breakup text, but it was like I don't know if it was an excuse, but I would love for Annabelle to read it and for you to roast it and say what this guy should have done differently. What is this text all about?
Okay, so let me give a little bit of context.
Okay. I love context.
I matched with this guy on Hinge one night. We matched like middle of the day. We started talking back and forth a little bit. I find out he's kind of from like our hometown. He's 805.
Yeah.
He went to Berkeley. He's got a good education, whatever. Smokes weed. Love that. And so we like talked back and forth a little bit, and then, but not that much. And then we were talking about like where we are, when we should meet up. Because I was like, let's cut the bullshit. I don't want to like DM for, 3 days and then nothing ever happens. I'm sick of that shit. I don't have time. I'm not doing this. So I was like, let's meet up tonight. What are you doing? Cut to the chase. And he was like, oh no, why does it say that you're like 100 miles away? And I was like, for fuck's sake, it's one of these. He was in town for a little bit, hinged a little, and then left. That's like how they all are. That's why I wanted to cut to the chase, because it's like they're never here. Yeah, they're always a fucking tourist. Yeah. So I was just kind of like, oh damn, you're from like out of town. Okay, well, sorry dude. Anyway, like have a great night. It's probably not gonna work out. And he like got a little flustered about that. And we ended up talking just a little bit more that night, whatever. And then the next day, he sends me this text, okay? We had matched the day before, midday. And he sends me this text.
This has been like 24 hours of communicating.
Not even 24 hours. Not even 24 hours.
Stage has been set.
So he said, so stupid, 2:10 p.m. Hey, Annabelle, I want to tell you that I think you're a cool person and clearly a talented artist. I was looking forward to getting to know you. However, for the sake of clear communication, there's some stuff that I must admit are red flags for me. Like the emotional outbursts and going from harsh and cold to charismatic and warm with me in a matter of 10 minutes. Personally, I love a red flag a bit too much, and that's why I gave you my number even after the fact, but I'm trying to do better in that regard, and I likely should have ended the conversation after I triggered you. Again, I can tell you have lots to offer as a human and as a romantic partner. Sadly, I think we're on different pages right now. I'm seeking a bit more stability and less of a roller coaster, although it's fun. Rather than ghost each other, which I hate, I'm sending you this long-ass essay to convey how I feel. I wish you the best, Annabelle. Maybe in another lifetime. Blue heart emoji. So,
what is the emotional outburst he's referring to?
The emotional outburst was me being like, oh, you're in San Antonio. Yeah, that typically happens. All right, have a good day. I was triggered.
It's giving Jonah Hill.
It's giving Jonah Hill.
Like,
so Charlotte's whole thing, and this has been her thing for years, is she absolutely hates or not even a breakup text. It's like the good luck out there, kid. It's just not
the
gonna
manifesto.
Work between us. The manifesto.
It's like some of it's like a thing. It's like I think yeah, okay, cool. Don't ghost. No adjectives. No nothing where I would like. Don't make it seem like a favor to the other person.
You
don't
seem
assume
like
their
a
feelings.
great girl.
Nothing like no we. Don't use we.
Tears you apart.
No we. No we. Not. I think we. No, we're not a fucking we.
Who's we?
We've never
Who's
met.
Who's we?
Who's we?
Who are
or
you?
Just like I think I'm sure this isn't what you want to hear. How the fuck do you know what I want to hear? No, we don't do that.
Yeah.
And so like this guy hit like the jackpot of all of the things I hate. I think I literally told Annabelle, I'm like, I would like to. I'm like, you know what I want to do to this guy? I want to cut his feet off and then cook them and turn them into tacos and feed them to Army Hammer.
She was losing
and
her
feed
mind.
them to him on Jeffrey Epstein's fucking island. I fucking hate this shit.
I can honestly like feel the cringe rolling off of you while she was reading it.
I hate like it's also like I'm someone where it's like I would choose like it's like sure I would like a little heads up with no adjectives like hey don't see this working out I'm not into this. Okay, cool. One sentence. I would take that fine, but like if I would take ghosting over that, I would hunt times 11.
I think it's like I made the comment before you started reading that I was like I love a context but like that's I think that's like in fitness background I'm sure Justine's talked about some of these things like in almost any question someone asks you it's like context is key, right? And that's the thing is like I'm so anti-ghosting, but like are you ghosting someone that you haven't even met and have talked to for a day? Like and I agree with him. Like, yes, it's polite to not do that, but like to your point, Charlotte, is like it could have just been like this is like the epitome of like that could have just been an email. Only
could have been an email,
but like that was like that could have been a one-liner.
Literally,
that could have been like, "Hey, so sorry, this didn't work out."
He was like, and projecting by being like, "I triggered you." I'm like, babe, I think I triggered you, my love.
Like that was.
I don't know where the fuck this came from. I wasn't thinking about you at all. So I don't know.
He like was trying so hard to come across like he's like this emotionally mature good guy. He had like I can like read the like martyr complex of that guy through the text. Like,
gross, dude.
Like the way he's just like he wants to like seem emotionally mature, but he's like still wants to feel like a bad boy. Like he's like with the red flag, which I love.
I love a little red flag a little too much. I'm like, dude, I'm
what the fuck,
like,
dude?
what the fuck? I didn't give you any information. I gave you like nothing.
Yeah, like yeah, that's kind of my take on it. I don't want to be ghosted, but I don't need, especially in that time frame. It's like the guy I just broke up with. We dated like like he was my boyfriend for 3 months, and my speech wasn't that long. Like,
what was it? What was your?
It was really fresh, and it was a comic, so I don't want to talk much about
Oh,
it. But
fuck.
it was like, honestly, like, what I will say is that I didn't really have to give one at all because he didn't ask any questions, so that was kind of more on him than me. But it was like, I mean, just initially sitting down, I, like, had more I could say, but I was kind of just like, this really isn't working for me. I think you're a great guy. I just don't think you're my guy. Yeah. Like, that was kind of the premise, and then he didn't ask me to elaborate. So that
I feel is the most respectful
because
thing.
then if you had questions and wanted to know more why, you could ask that. Just like he had the floor there to ask, and he just chose not to. And I was like, seems weird, but that's his choice, and now I don't have to go down this rabbit hole.
He's like, I'd rather not grow from this, actually.
Yeah, that's actually exactly I was like, all right, well, go on your way.
I'd rather stay the same. Thank you so much.
I was like, all right, you know what, power to you, man. So it's like he could have just said, like, I don't think it's gonna work, or I don't see this, you know, whatever the fuck. And you then if you were like, oh, why? He could have launched into his fucking Shakespeare monologue. But I don't feel like that was necessary off the bat by any means.
Literally the worst. So if we rewrote that, we would rewrite it as one sentence.
Yeah, 100%.
You think? Okay, cool.
Absolutely, dude. Or nothing, dude.
Or nothing.
Nothing.
Because it's not technically, if you have not met somebody in person, you have no tangible proof they
literally
exist.
what?
You have no proof they exist, they can't be a ghost.
No, I didn't even save your number, babe. Like, I got this text, I was like, who?
That would have, what I wish would have happened is that you would have responded to that and just said, who is this?
That would be
Who is this,
great.
by the way? I'm like, no, wait, please.
I'm sorry, was this my 5 o'clock or my 8? Like, that's
you fucking loser.
I knew you were unstable.
Yeah. And it's like, exactly. I could have hit back with some.
Exactly the immature.
I'm like, bitch, you don't know a red flag,
No.
honey. I haven't given you a single.
That was truly
not
wild.
a glimpse, but
Thank you so
Not
much
a
for sharing
glimpse.
that.
yeah.
And have you ever had somebody bring a dog on a first date? Like they brought their dog.
No, but I actually, so in my new Hinge profile, I literally have in my bio, I don't have a problem with your, I'm sure your dog is cute, but that's not going to get me to go out with you.
Okay, I'm going to like your answer to this.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a woman noticing a trend of multitasking while dating. Not sure if this is so much an ask for advice as much as it is pointing out something I've noticed lately, wondering if it's a thing, maybe this is just a rant. As of lately, I, female 29, feel like a lot of my dates, typically male 27 to 35, seem like they're trying to kill 2 birds with 1 stone on their dates with me. Maybe multitasking is a better word. Allow me to explain. I recently had a coffee date, arrived, expecting to see my Hinge match close to the line or by the door, just something where he was standing. But after about 5 minutes of looking around, I realized he's seated at a table, headphones on, working on a laptop with his notebook next to him. He explained he works remote and likes to work out of a coffee shop and thought having a date here would be perfect. While he was nice, I couldn't help but think it left a bad taste in my mouth. I felt like I was swinging by someone's office for a business meeting. For another recent date to an outdoor bar, my date showed up with his dog in tow. I knew he had a dog from his Bumble profile, and I do love dogs, but I feel like it's distracting to bring your dog on a first date. I think I said something like, oh, you brought your dog. I said this in a friendly tone, despite feeling meh about it. And he said something like, well, she loves this bar, and I wouldn't have had a chance to take her out to the park today with our date, so I figured I'd bring her. In both situations, neither of my dates warned me ahead of time. Even if they did, I'm not sure what I would say, but I'd likely suggest something else. Some of my friends have also had guys incorporate errands into dates, like swinging by to pick up a dry cleaning, things like that. It feels like something that's happening a lot more lately overall. I'm not expecting anyone to roll out the red carpet for me or drop everything on a date, but these little things make it feel like the guy doesn't really care all that much. I feel like I'm being fit into a small spot on the calendar. I know a lot of people say things like a first date should be a meet and greet, but this just feels a little too informal, or maybe too formal with how they've seemed to plan the date around their schedule with the calendar and everything. I don't know. I know by default this happens in dating. For example, with a dinner date, everyone needs to eat anyway, and the same goes for coffee, but people seem to really be losing the plot here. Anyway, would love to hear your thoughts. Is this a thing?
I have a lot of thoughts.
Okay, go.
Yeah. Okay, so first, whoever this listener is, you can fucking expect them to roll out the red carpet and do the thing for your date. I think that's one of the big issues is like, and I think that I could go off on a million tangents about this, but like I'm so personally triggered by that like feeling, because I like one of my whole things is like the guy I just broke up with, we were together for 3 months, he never took me on a date. And so like yeah, and like this has been like a constant trajectory for me, and there's like this rhetoric out there that like asking for those things makes you high maintenance, or like it's like that like I don't know. Justine's big on this. I think she has an episode that's like death of the cool girl. Like we're done with that. And like I'm in my 30s. I'm not cool. Like we're not doing that. And so it's like I think there's a lot of like that's like not to put the blame on women, but like we've obviously adapted that mentality from guys making us feel that way, and then it's this cyclical thing, right, where we're putting that out there so the men are not trying. And I think that we have to ditch that mentality first, because I've been like I always prided myself on being like, because naturally I am pretty low maintenance. Like I'm just like I'm very happy with like let's get like a Bud Light and wings. Like I'm really cool with that as like a date. Like but I also don't want you to not feel like you need to put effort in. So I feel like women need to like first accept that it's not bad to have those standards. Like it just I like felt it in my heart when she automatically like felt like she had to backpedal to be like I know like I don't expect this. So like that's my first thing. But I think like again, context matters, but I think there's like a general problem with men, or maybe women too, but people are just less intentional now. Like to me it's not about like what they're doing on the date. It's like to me that shows like they're just not being intentional about their time with you. And nobody like is looking to not feel like a priority when you're trying to meet someone that you potentially want to date, right? Whether it's the meet and greet or not. And that's like the special thing. Like, I think so many people get it wrong is like, oh, this date needs to be like, you know, they have to take me to this like $100 dinner. Like I don't give a shit about that, but like I want you to like have a plan, and it to be very clear that like you're here to like get to know me and spend time with me. Like I don't care if you take me to like Zilker Park and we like just sit there and like look at birds. Like if it's like you're setting aside this time, and like to her point, if you have all this other stuff going on, there's just like all these distractions, and like then you just feel like another one of those distractions, and nobody wants to feel like that on a date. So I think like I've seen that trend. Like I do agree with her. I actually had a Hinge date that did this exact same thing that with the coffee shop. Like I got there, it was a coffee shop that like I'd never heard of. I went there and I got there, and it turns out it was like walking distance from his house. And he like, it was like a day date at the coffee shop, but it was walking distance. I drove like 15 minutes. It was walking distance.
Fucking idiot.
I got there, he had like all his work stuff, and he was like, oh yeah, I was just like working. And I was just like, was I just like a meeting like you had today? Like, and you know, he ended up taking me on like intentional dates after that. So I was like, okay, maybe it is just that first date like meet and greet thing. But I'm like, why couldn't this, like, I'm a big fan of like, let's meet somewhere that's like halfway for both of us. Like it's just like showing like I'm not even being like you have to be the one that's putting in all the effort. But like why am I coming to your like next door neighbor coffee shop for you to like conveniently get your work done? Like if you have a busy work day, let's do it on a different day.
You're showing me how much this means.
Well, I feel like guys get away with like, oh, like women want a plan, and so they're just like, cool, like I'm gonna be the guy who makes a plan, and they don't tell you ahead of time. Hey, like, by the way, it's the place right below my apartment complex.
Is there a possibility that either of these men, like, it was like, oh, I'm setting up my work stuff at a coffee shop to make it look like I was busy and I was doing something, and like I'm not too, or I brought the dog because like, what if we have nothing to talk about?
So I mean, like, I could like. I feel like it's like taking people at their word, because I could see like a guy being like, oh, women like a guy who works hard. I want her to see that I'm a guy who has a good job, like provide, like I don't know, or like, oh, she liked the dog, like I mentioned the dog on Bumble, like, you know, I'll bring it, because I feel like it's like guys, it's like they're very reactive and responsive, and sometimes it's like you listen too specifically, and then you just kind of look like a doofus, and like I could see like it meaning well, like I also think it's like there's also your gut feelings, right, for a reason. Like if she was like, I freaking love dogs, and the guy brought the dog, it's like he was probably being excited for you to bring the dog. Or if you're like, oh, like, what do you do for work? Like, oh, cool. Like, I'm working. Like, I don't know. Like, you got a point there.
My, like, hot take, I guess, with that, though, is, like, if you need to, like, showcase your work on my date or bring your dog, you're telling me right now there's nothing else about your personality that's interesting. Like, if you have to rely on your dog, like, if you... That's, like, why people always think I'm a dog hater, and I'm not. I am a cat person, but, like, I like dogs. People think I'm, like, a serial killer because I don't, like, freaking lose my mind when I see a dog on the street. But, like, I have first of all, I have dog trauma. I, like, literally almost had my vagina bitten off by a dog. Like, like it was terrifying. That's a
valid
whole nother thing.
Valid.
But, like, I like them. I have friends with dogs. I love dogs. But, like, I if I scroll through your Hinge profile and, like, half your pictures are of a dog and you're not even in it, I'm like, you have nothing going on for you except this dog.
That's your personality.
Like, I'm not gonna fuck your dog. Like, I don't. What do you? You know what I mean? Like, that's just
bestiality is legal.
Yeah, it's like I don't. There's a million comedians making jokes about that. I'm sure one of them will do it for you. Like I'm
hell yeah.
And so it's to me that's like what that shows is like. You're riding on that same thing with the work thing. Even I can understand what you're saying. Like men are reactive, so like I do understand where it's probably coming from them. But like I hope men can like find like a confidence in themselves or like something that they can like find interesting enough to like not fear that. Like it's like that feels like a fallback. Like I don't know. That would just be like I don't know. I feel like that would be like me showing up to that same date and I just like pull out the book I'm reading and put it on the table. It's like, oh, in case we run out of things to do, ask me about this
by the
book.
way.
Or, like,
like,
it's just weird.
Or like I'm trying to think of something else. Like I was gonna be like not like a Botox thing, but it's like you show up with like the little like acne patches or something.
Yeah,
it's, like hair, like a thing where it's like I'm doing a chemical peel right now or something, and it's like.
Now I
like
will
something like that where it's like I'm multitasking, like oh, like I'm here on my way to like this blah 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 appointment. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I will say the guy that was like running the laundry errand on the date, insane. That's insane. Like if a guy
that's
like,
insane.
On a first date, if you went to run an errand, that's crazy. Like I'm a big fan of like in a further relationship, like one of my favorite things to do with like boyfriends or girlfriends is like run an errand. Like
sure,
like,
go to the grocery store.
On a first date to be like, hey, hold on, I just have to stop at the laundromat. Like that's crazy to me. I don't know why that like really.
I do think there's like something to be said for like if it's like you're planning. It's like because like they make there's a point where it's like. Yeah, like you're going, everyone has to eat anyway. The dinner that you're having, like that's gonna be your dinner that night anyway. Like everyone has to eat. Everyone has to get coffee if you like coffee anyway. So it's like, I see that and like, or it's like, oh, like maybe let's pick something in that direction because I have to swing by that area anyway. But it's also like, don't make that part of your day and don't mention it.
After.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
don't mention it.
That's a big thing too, is it's like, I think, and part of that I think is just like you said, men don't like overthink things as much. I think naturally, obviously there's always exceptions.
That's the thing,
like,
yeah.
But I think like they just say stuff sometimes because that's just like what's in their head and like we are going to process that differently, like on a general term. And so it's like, I don't know. It's like, I'm trying to think of like an example of like, I had one of my other comic friends on my podcast and she was talking about this guy that like she shared with him how she just feels like, you know, it's nice to connect with him because like she doesn't usually like get along and have like banter like that with other people and stuff like that. Like basically sharing, she feels like there's like this chemistry, right? And he goes, oh, well, you know how it is with people like you and me. We just can get along with anyone. And it's just like, she was like,
immediately making it impersonal.
Yeah, like it's like, I thought it was like, this was like, you know, like a me and you thing.
He's like, yeah, I'm pretty much like that. I'm pretty fucking charismatic, so I can do that to anybody.
So it's just like, I think like that's like kind of what that's giving to me is being like,
yeah.
oh, well, like, you know, I didn't go out of my way for this date. I planned it because it was like no one wants to feel like a convenience. You want to feel like a priority.
You don't want to feel fit in, like fit you into the schedule.
Yeah. I have never had a man bring a dog on a date, but I did have a man bring another woman on a date.
What? Okay. What's the story there?
Okay, I was in college. I was like 19.
Okay. Well,
I had just broken up with my like college boyfriend and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go on a Tinder date. Whatever. Yeah. That's all there was at the time. And he wanted to take me to a nice restaurant somewhere in Santa Barbara. I can't remember. And I show up and we had been talking up until then. He was super sweet, you know, like, let's go. I'm going to take you out to a nice dinner. I get there. There's just another bitch sitting at the table. And he was like, oh, yeah, I invited my friend. Like, she's here. Like, I think her like, boyfriend is going to show up a little bit later. He ended up, like, not showing up until, like, 2 hours later or something like that. So it was just the three of us at this dinner date. me, this guy I was just meeting, and then they were friends. So they talked the whole time. I was shocked. I was 19 also. Yeah. So I was like, what the fuck am I supposed to even do in this situation? But like maybe an hour and a half in, I was talking a little bit, but maybe an hour and a half in, he calls me the wrong name. Oh my confidently, God. Isabel. And I was like, did you just call me Isabel? And he was like, yeah, what's your name?
Too.
Oh, I fucking hate that.
Annie worse.
I hate anything that's not my name. But he was like, yeah, that's your name, isn't it?
Oh
I was like, do you want to die?
Have you ever wondered what?
I just know, like, anytime Annabelle's ever been like, this person is like not on my side, is when someone calls her Annie. She's like, we're done. This person.
That guy last night that I was hanging out with, he was like, does anybody ever call you anything like Annie or Anna? And I was like, I will homicide if you fucking call me that shit. Do not call me anything.
I have like a weird thing with like, I love like a lot of my very close friends will call me Kai, and like I don't mind that at all, but it like irks me when someone that like doesn't know me well just does that. Like one of my bar regulars the other day like was like Kai, and I was like, you don't know me.
Yo,
like I don't know why. Like it's just like so funny. People are so like particular about things like that, and I am one of them. As well.
Yeah. I feel that. The
craziest thing a man ever did to me on a date was tell me on a first date that I have dyke energy. And I quote that I don't use that word personally, but
how do you respond? Even what do you?
I was like, what do you mean by that?
Okay.
And he was like proceeded to just describe basically that it was because I like at the time I was like running my own business and had just gotten done. Like I used to be a bodybuilder and I like just finished doing that, and like but I was like a bikini girl. I wasn't like the like and like I used to do that, and like I was talking about that. And he's like, and you're just really confident and sarcastic.
He's like, by the way, I've never met a woman before.
That's exactly what I said. I literally and verbatim I said, so you've never been out with a woman? And he's like, I've gone out with lots of women. And I said, no, you've been out with
I talk to lots of women.
Yeah.
Daily I talk to women.
Yeah, it was like
other than you.
Thing I've ever heard in my life. I was literally like, I can't. That's an absurd thing to ask someone on a date. Like,
sounds like we're all dykes at that point.
Literally.
I hope that wasn't offensive.
Yeah.
That was supposed to be a good thing.
It's fine. Yeah,
that's a good thing.
We love all the kings, queens, everything in betweens. No, but that actually, because we're talking about nicknames, that actually brings us to the next point about our next listener question, which I think is kind of fun. Does giving guys nicknames jinx it? So when you're like going about dating, you're not a thing yet. Do you ever like give the guy a nickname that you don't use with him behind the scenes, like the blankety blank guy or like something like that? Do you refer to him as his name to your friends, or do you call him something else?
It's like a huge TikTok trend right now too.
Yeah.
Really? So this is interesting because I do this sometimes, but I didn't do this until I was podcasting. Because all the characters in my podcast have nicknames. And so then, but to my friends, like, we've definitely done it before if it's just, like, a casual character. Like, I'm going to say a different name, and it's not really his name. Like, but, like, there's a guy that we just call, like, Throat Fuck Jeremy.
Okay.
Love that.
His name is not Jeremy. It's a different name.
Okay, got it.
But like we use his real name, but then we like say that, and it's like it just catches on, and we do that. But there's only really been one guy that we usually nickname them after the fact, or for like.
Yes, I have 2 kids, 2 baby mamas in my.
Yeah. And I only had one guy that had the name throughout, and we did use it, and it did go up in flames. So she might be onto something. But I don't know if it jinxed it or not. Like I think that's interesting though, because like I am big into like the words we speak being out, but also like if I'm just calling you like this guy that I was like heartbroken over when I moved here, his nickname was Lampshade, and so
and where does that come from?
So no one's gonna hurt you like a guy that you initially didn't like. And a guy you had to force yourself to like.
Yeah, always.
And so I met this guy, like, long story short, 3 weeks before I was moving to Austin. And so, like, I wanted nothing to do with it. He, like, literally was exactly my type, though. Like, still to this day, shout out, hottest man I've ever been with. Like, I love you. And
I love you.
I still love you. I say this on my podcast every week. I think he probably has a restraining order. But when it started out, he literally, like, was so into me that it was, like, weird. Like, we like just met. I was like I'm moving, and so I was like trying to have like no interest in him, like I was kind of like putting the boundary up. I was like, I'm leaving the state, I don't care. And he was kind of like, I'm going to come to Austin. I'm going to come see you. I'm going to book a flight. Like this, the first night I ever met him. And I was like, this is wild. And so as we were going on, my ex that I had just gotten out of a relationship with, we call him Goodwill, which I won't go into that story. But that's like a shorter. It's just everything he bought was from Goodwill. He didn't have any fashion sense at all. But so we called him Goodwill. And like one of my guy friends messaged me and was like, hey, here's an idea. You should just tell this guy that clearly wants to turn you into a lampshade and keep you in his basement about Goodwill. He'll kill him, and then he goes to jail. 2 birds, 1 stone. They're out of your life.
Hey! Pit them against
2 birds,
each other.
1
So,
stone.
but then it just stuck, and all my friends started calling him Lampshade. And I cared about this guy so little at first that on our 3rd hangout before I moved, I literally told him, I was like, hey, I'm launching a podcast in 6 months, and like I call you Lampshade because my friends think you're a psychopath.
Because it's a serial killer.
Yeah, I was like, they think you're gonna put me in your basement. And he was like, that's terrible. And I was like, sorry. And then he did fly to Austin though. Shout out.
He did?
Yeah, like this turned into like a
Go
year
Lampshade.
nightmare. And then now look at me. Now I'm the one that's like, I love you, Lampshade.
Lampshade.
Hey, we stand.
Good
We
times.
stand Lampshade. We
Good
don't.
times.
We don't like him.
He stand cocaine, so I had to unstand.
Yeah. That'll do it.
Yeah.
That'll
No,
do
he
it.
likes the nose beers.
He had a little.
No, but some our listeners basically asked, like, does giving nicknames jinx it? She's saying.
What do you think?
So she basically just asked, like, is it weird? Like, says, does this jinx it? Like, my friend who's married, of course, smug married friend is like, I think you guys are jinxing it. So I think my take on, like, does it jinx it? I think it's correlation, not causation. Because, like, what does it usually take for a guy to get a nickname? They do something dumb.
Yeah.
You meet him in a setting where they do something weird.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so that's, I think by default, that kind of, like, makes them a guy you take less seriously. Or you've, like, met him under weird circumstances. Because it's like, the guy that you meet, it's like they're super wholesome. You go on some nice dates. You start dating. Like, they don't really get a nickname. You get a nickname for, like, falling into a cake and being like, bleh, and then you're like the cake bleh guy. Like,
Or, like, so something that happened with a guy I was dating this summer is, like, we liked him. He was a good guy through most of the thing. We're actually cool now. But, like, throughout, not problematic. Did not have a nickname. He was just who he is, right? When he ended things with me, he ended things in a very shitty way. And that was bad. But, like, in the process of trying to get over that, one of my comedian girlfriends had me over. I had a little cry fest, and she wrote me a roast of him. And so in that process, we came up with a nickname for him because something she said, I literally lost my fucking mind. And we, like, changed his name to that in my phone. And, like, now, ever since then, like, all my friends refer to him as that. And so it's to your point, like, until he did this shitty thing, he was just blank. He was just his name. And then, like, you did this shitty thing, and it's like,
Then
so
you
it's
get a
either
nickname.
you pick an ick that you need to get over
pick an ick.
something.
You pick the ick. I love that.
That's
so
what we do.
much.
Most of my nicknames have been like the ick, right? It's like Goodwill, except for throat fuck blank. That was like that's just what happened. But most of them have been like an ick. Or we call that guy I was talking about, we just call him Little Buddy.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, like whatever
Little
that thing
Buddy.
is.
And I
Yeah.
think of it like
Little
none of my serious relationships ever had like a nickname. I mean, I guess like Buddy's it's technically a nickname. His name is William, but like that's his mom calls him that. Like it's like anyone that's ever had like a nickname was somebody that like you wanted to actually stay away. Like if someone sat you down, you're like, oh, I don't like they're funny, like they make a good story, but
But like the guy that I was just dating, like the whole time I had like a crush on him and leading into dating him, I just called him his name. I never had a nickname, and I still didn't make one now because I was like, I broke up with him. He didn't like do he didn't like do me wrong.
Yeah.
Like so he's just that guy. So I agree. I think it's like to me it's not really a causation because I feel like they earned those nicknames. You know,
they earn them, not in a good way.
I love that you said the smug married thing though. It's like shade, but no shade, but shade is like. I think a lot of times people like once they get so far into relationships, they like lose the lens of like what it was like when they were in the trenches.
My god,
like when you were in the streets.
Dude,
so, like, I respect my relationship friends who like can stay grounded. Like one of my best friends has like been in a 5-year relationship, and she still is like always just like so empathetic and understanding, and it's like drives me nuts when people are just like, you know, I remember, and you're
oh my
fine.
god, the second that you stop looking is when it will
and
come.
I'm like, fucking
shut up!
shut up!
Kill you! You don't fucking know. Yeah, they're always like, oh, babe, you're gonna find it someday.
If
I
just-
did.
If you just loved yourself. I have a joke about that, about like friends, like the worst thing. I'm like, I don't really mind being single that much, but my least favorite thing is the dumb shit your non-single friends will try to tell you to make you feel better.
Oh my god,
It's
that's
like,
a whole episode in
my
itself.
God.
Yeah, it's a whole thing, and I'm just like, I love you guys, I love you bitches, but shut up.
Please
Oh
don't.
my god,
You're not helping.
I don't need advice.
I don't
hate
need
it.
advice. I need a drink.
Yeah, yeah, period,
Exactly.
period.
And since I'm out of my drink, and I feel like I could use a drink from outside here.
Hell yeah.
I think we should wrap this one up, Kylie.
Yeah.
Kylie, this has been a pleasure. Like, I wish this conversation could go for like 4
I will
hours
come
because I've
back
been having a
anytime.
blast.
Please.
I'm like going to the motherships this weekend, so we
I
should
love
totally
that.
connect. Like, we should totally try and like do something. Like,
Yeah.
I love Justine. Like,
I'm
such a
doing
homie.
a free show this Saturday downtown. So you should
Yes,
come by.
Yeah, let's
yes,
go.
yes.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Love
Kylie,
it.
why don't you tell everybody about it? This will probably come out after Saturday,
That's
but
okay.
tell everybody where to find you.
Yeah.
We would love to continue to follow Kylie Kaiser.
Thank you so much.
Comedy.
Okay, I just changed my Instagram name. Let me not fuck this up. Okay, I just changed it for comedy purposes, but I've had the same Instagram name since college, so this has been like a identity crisis for me.
Oh no.
Okay, now it should be Kylie, Kylie dot Kaiser, Kaiser dot comedy 13.
Woo.
So that
Kylie
should be it now. Same thing on TikTok without the dots. Those are my main 2 platforms. So Kylie Kaiser Comedy 13. If you search that, it'll come up with or without the dots. That's the best place to find shows for me and stuff too. I have like a link tree and everything, but I always have like any shows that week in my bio. I'm always promoting my stories. I'm never shutting the fuck up in my Instagram stories. So like just know you're getting into that. But that's where my shows always are. I would love to plug. I'm starting to co-produce a show here at Roscoe's Comedy Club on the East Side.
Fuck yeah.
That's going to be a monthly show. I just took over the co-production of that. So that is coming up February 23rd, if this is out by next week.
Oh yeah, I think it will be.
So that's on next Friday, but it will be monthly. So you can check that out any month. It's called New Faces of Austin Comedy.
Wow, congratulations on that. That's
Thank
pretty-
you. I'm very excited. I've been wanting to get into production, but otherwise, yeah, I'm all over town. And you can just typically find it on Instagram.
I love it. Awesome. Thank you so much. It has been an absolute pleasure. This has been a fun one. I always love like our fun episodes. Like sometimes
Yeah.
they're more serious. Like,
Yeah.
the fun ones are the best.
Thank you so much for having
It
me.
has been an honor to have you, and yeah, the famous Kylie Kaiser. Thank you so much. Everybody check out Kylie Kaiser Comedy. All right.
Ciao.
Bye.